At 09:04, the morning sun filtered through the glass front of Patriot Tactical, casting narrow streaks of light across polished hardwood floors and rows of gleaming rifles displayed with reverence. The place smelled like gun oil and burnt coffee, a blend that longtime customers probably didn't even notice anymore. Mitch Daniels leaned behind the counter with arms crossed, the faded Marine Corps tattoo on his forearm just visible beneath his rolled-up sleeve. He was telling a story, voice loud and casual, the kind of story that carried the cadence of someone used to being listened to. The regulars, 5 men who hovered near the register, were his usual crew. Most were older vets like him, gray at the temples, all wearing ball caps with ship names or unit insignias. They chuckled in low bursts at the right places, nodding in agreement as he wrapped up a tale about a boot trying to load blanks during a night fire drill. The bell above the door chimed softly. A woman stepped in. No one turned. She wore jeans, a navy button-down shirt tucked neatly, and plain sneakers. Her brown hair was tied back in a ponytail that said function, not fashion. No makeup, no jewelry. She carried a small notepad and moved with quiet focus, the way someone did when they weren't trying to be noticed, but noticed everything. Anna Carter didn't interrupt the conversation. She walked along the wall of tactical rifles, pausing occasionally to study specific models. Her fingers brushed over the charging handle of a Daniel Defense M4, lingered briefly on a FN Scar stock, then moved to the Mk12 SPR mounted under a small spot lamp. She tilted her head slightly, as if listening to the rifle. The conversation behind the counter hadn't stopped. Johnson, tall and thick-set in a "Don't Tread on Me" shirt, cracked a joke about a customer who had asked if silencers needed batteries. Mitch played along, adding a punchline that had them all laughing. Only one man, Calvin, a quiet Navy corpsman with clear eyes and a habit of watching more than speaking, glanced her way briefly. No one else noticed. Anna finished her survey and approached the counter. She waited without stepping into the circle the men had unconsciously formed. After a beat, Mitch looked over at her. "Can I help you with something, Miss?" His tone was polite but distant, the kind of voice that drew lines without saying so. She nodded and offered a printed sheet. "I need a custom barrel replacement for a Mk12 SPR. Threaded for a Surefire SOCOM suppressor, twist rate 17. Match grade if you've got it." Mitch took the paper and skimmed it. His brow lifted half an inch. "This is some specific stuff," he said. You getting this for your husband?" she replied. "It's for me." That drew the first laugh. Johnson leaned in. "Mk12, huh, what? You building a sniper loadout from Call of Duty?" Another voice chimed in. From the back. "You know how it is. Watch one YouTube video. Suddenly you're an operator." Anna didn't respond. Her fingers returned to her side. Back straight. Posture balanced. Her notepad disappeared into her back pocket. The room felt slightly smaller. Mitch handed the paper back. Smile just a little condescending. "Look, no offense, but this isn't pink pistol territory. What you're asking for, that's team gear. Real mission stuff. Maybe you want to bring in the guy who's actually going to be using it." "I know exactly what I need," she said, voice calm but clipped, "and I'm prepared to pay for the customization." "Well, sure," Mitch said, holding up a hand. "But it's not just about money. You gotta know what you're handling. That SPR needs a serious shooter behind it. Most folks that walk in here wouldn't know how to clean a gas block." Another chuckle went around the group. One man pantomimed cradling a rifle like a baby, to scattered laughter. Anna's jaw flexed once, almost imperceptibly. Then her shirt shifted as she reached for the spec sheet, and a thin glint of metal caught the light dog tags. None of the men noticed, except Calvin. His laughter stalled, a flicker of doubt passing over his face. "Tell you what," Mitch said, still performing. "Maybe check out the airsoft place 2 blocks down. They might have something more your speed." Anna met his eyes, holding them for a second longer than was comfortable. "Thanks for your time," she said, sliding the paper back into her pocket. The bell rang as she left. Behind her, the men erupted into another round of mockery. "Probably some cosplay thing," one said. "You see how she held that rifle like it was going to bite." Mitch returned to his place behind the counter, dusting non-existent crumbs off a Glock 19. Calvin didn't join in. He kept glancing toward the door. She hadn't raised her voice, hadn't argued, hadn't needed to, but something in her calm left a strange aftertaste in the air. They just didn't realize it yet. At 09:11, Anna stepped out of Patriot Tactical and let the door shut behind her without looking back. The bell gave its soft metallic ring, swallowed quickly by the heavier morning air outside. She didn't fumble for her keys or check her phone. She moved with the same quiet precision she had shown inside, straight to a black Suburban parked near the front. The vehicle's government plates were half-caked in dried road dust. Deliberately nondescript, she opened the door and slid into the driver's seat. A brief pause. Then she pulled her phone from the console and tapped a contact labeled Ops, Coordination. It rang once. "This is Carter," she said. Her voice had lost the soft edges from before. Patriot Tactical declined the request. "It's a non-starter." There was a pause on the other end. "No, not hostile," she added. "Just uncooperative. Wrong culture." Another pause. "Yes, sir. I have a backup. We'll adjust. Recommend rerouting the requisition through Command Depot 2 until further notice." She hung up and placed the phone face down. Her eyes returned briefly to the storefront. Expression unreadable. No movement, no sound. She shifted the vehicle into gear and pulled away slowly, leaving nothing but faint tire prints on the curb. Inside the shop, Mitch was still chuckling at his own joke about gas block alignment. Johnson leaned against the counter with his arms folded, sharing a story about a guy who'd once tried to zero a scope without mounting it properly. The laughter came easy, familiar, the kind of thing you hear in places that don't expect to be challenged. Calvin stood near the ammo shelf, a box of 223 rounds in one hand and a frown he hadn't quite managed to shake. Something about the woman's posture had stayed with him, not just how she stood, how she waited. She hadn't been thrown off by the jokes or the crowd or the condescension. She'd just watched, like someone used to waiting for people to show their real face. He turned slightly toward the counter. The others hadn't noticed the dog tags, or the confident stance, or the way she handled the spec sheet like it wasn't her first time explaining. Rifle needs to someone with less knowledge. Calvin had, he just hadn't spoken up. "You all right over there, Doc?" Mitch called out, using the nickname left over from Calvin's corpsman days. Calvin nodded, sliding the ammo box back on the shelf. "Yeah, just thinking." "Don't strain yourself," Johnson shot back with a laugh. The others chuckled, and the conversation picked up again. Talk shifted to range day plans and the new line of holsters Mitch was considering stocking. The bell over the door rang once more as a UPS guy dropped off a package. Nothing unusual. Behind the counter, Mitch tossed the envelope with Anna's specs into the trash. He didn't even glance at it twice. Just swept it off the workspace with the side of his hand while talking about optic mounts. Calvin didn't say anything. He could feel the change coming. He just didn't know what form it would take yet, but it was already on the way. At 10:26, the bell above Patriot Tactical chimed again. Mitch looked up mid-sentence, expecting another customer with a casual question about mags or range ammo. What stepped through the door wasn't casual. The man was mid-20s, squared jaw, short buzz cut, wearing a navy blue shirt tucked into coyote tactical pants, combat boots, calm, methodical eyes that scanned the room once and locked forward. His shirt bore a small, worn patch just above the heart, the gold trident. No name, no rank, no hesitation. He walked to the exact spot where Anna had stood. The bell chimed again. Another man entered, dressed identically. Same gait, same eyes. He joined the first without a word. Then came a third, a fourth, fifth, sixth. They formed into a straight line in front of the counter, evenly spaced. The sound of their boots was muffled by the mat, but it still seemed to echo louder than the music playing overhead. The room, once full of easy banter and laughter, dropped to absolute silence. Calvin straightened by the ammo shelf, his eyes widening. Mitch blinked once. Then again, he opened his mouth, voice faltering. "Can I help?" The second man from the left stepped forward, his movement smooth and controlled. He placed a folded piece of paper on the glass counter. Same paper, same specs Anna had submitted. No one else moved. Johnson took a step back, his arms no longer crossed. His eyes darted to the emblem on the shirts, then to the men's faces. No expressions, no tension, just purpose. Mitch looked down at the paper, then back up at the men. His mouth went dry. It was the same request he'd dismissed 90 minutes earlier. Exact specs, now laid before him by a man whose entire presence whispered readiness. The fifth SEAL adjusted his stance subtly. Weight shift, controlled, familiar. The way people trained to enter rooms that might shoot back tend to stand. Calvin glanced at Mitch. The old Marine's hands had drifted toward the counter edge, gripping it like he needed it to anchor himself. The men didn't speak. They didn't need to. Everything about the shop had changed. The laughter was gone. The pride that used to sit so easy in the air had slipped into something colder, tighter. The room now belonged to these 6 silent men who hadn't said a single word, who didn't need to raise their voices to be heard. The bell hadn't chimed a 7th time. Not yet. At 10:31, the bell chimed for the 7th time. Anna stepped through the door in full Navy service khakis. Her insignia caught the light as she entered, rank pins glinting sharp on her collar, warfare qualification badges precise and unmistakable. Her hair was pinned in a regulation bun, her gait crisp, her eyes steady. The 6 SEALs shifted in unison, parting to create a path toward the counter. Inside the shop, no one spoke. Mitch's face had lost all color. Johnson took another step back, this time more deliberate. No one laughed. No one moved. Anna walked forward without rushing. She stopped directly in front of the counter, facing Mitch. Her voice was calm and projected clearly. "Lieutenant Commander Anna Carter. I oversee procurement and equipment readiness for SEAL Team 5. The silence deepened. She nodded toward the rifles on the wall. "Your shop came recommended?" "Word of mouth. Reputation for detail work and consistency. That's why I came here first." Mitch tried to speak, but nothing came. She continued. "The order I submitted this morning was for mission-critical components, suppressor threading, twist specs, precision compatibility. I was not testing your knowledge. I was giving your business an opportunity." Johnson shifted behind the counter, finding sudden interest in a holster display. The others didn't look up. Anna gestured lightly to the SEAL standing third from the right. He stepped forward and placed 6 identical rifles on the counter, each stripped and cleared, same model, same setup, all requiring the exact customization she had listed earlier. "We've brought over $300,000 in parts and custom labor to suppliers across the Southeast in the last fiscal year," she said, her voice still level. "We prefer working with veteran-owned establishments. Local, personal." She placed a card on the counter. "Our new armorer will take over the order. Thank you for your time." She turned to go. Mitch finally found his voice. It cracked. "Lieutenant Commander, I didn't know." She stopped but didn't turn. "No, you didn't. Because you didn't ask." She exited without another word. The bell chimed one last time behind her. The sound was soft, but in the silence it might as well have been a hammer. The SEALs moved in synchronized motion, filing out behind her. The last one paused at the door. He looked at Mitch. "She's not just our equipment officer," he said quietly. "She's a Navy Cross recipient, and before she outranked him, she was married to our commanding officer." He let the weight of that settle. Then he stepped out and pulled the door shut behind him. Inside, the room stayed still. Mitch stared at the card in his hand. His fingers shook. Johnson didn't say anything. No one did. There was nothing left to say. At 22:17, the lights inside Patriot Tactical were dimmed. Only the warm glow from a single desk lamp near the back cast light across the counters. Mitch sat on a worn stool behind the register, elbows on his knees, phone still in hand. The card lay face up on the counter beside him. He hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Across from him, the wall of photos looked back, framed snapshots of Marines in dusty fatigues. Unit flags, overseas base signs scribbled with Sharpie. One showed a younger version of himself kneeling beside an AAV, arms slung around a fellow grunt, both grinning through desert grime. Another featured a group of Marines at Camp Lejeune, dress blues crisp, medals pinned, proud. He'd always thought the wall meant something, a tribute, a reminder of where he'd come from. Tonight it looked smaller. Mitch stood slowly and walked toward it. His boots echoed faintly on the wooden floor. His fingers brushed the edge of a frame holding a group photo from a training detachment in Okinawa. He looked closer, narrowing in on one face he hadn't thought about in years. Captain Elena Moreno. She'd taken over his company halfway through a joint training cycle. First female CO he'd served under. He remembered being skeptical. Quietly, of course, never outright, but he'd watched, waited, assumed she'd falter. She hadn't. She ran the unit with calm precision. Never raised her voice. Didn't need to. She handled logistics better than anyone Mitch had seen before or since. She earned respect without chasing it. And still, he'd caught himself saying things like, "She's good for what she is." Nah, nor "she's tough considering." He winced. He remembered something else Moreno walking into the barracks day after a heat casualty scare during a ruck. She'd gone cot to cot herself, checking gear, hydration packs, boots. Didn't delegate, didn't ask, just showed up and handled it. One Lance Corporal had tried to joke with her. She smiled politely, made the correction he needed, and moved on. The moment had stuck with him. He just hadn't known why until tonight. He stepped away from the wall and returned to the counter. The phone was still unlocked. Mitch scrolled through recent calls, hesitating a second before tapping the number on the card. It rang twice, then kicked to voicemail. He waited for the tone. "Lieutenant Commander Carter," he said, voice low but clear. "This is Mitch Daniels from Patriot Tactical. I just wanted to say..." He paused. Not because he didn't know the words. Because he did. I was out of line today. I didn't ask who you were. I didn't listen. And I didn't treat you with the respect you've earned. He looked down at his hands. I've been in this business 20 years. Served 20 before that. Thought I knew how to read people. But I was wrong. About you. About a lot. The light buzzed faintly overhead. I know it's not enough to say sorry, but I want you to know I see it now. I see you. He drew a breath. Thank you for your service. And for the lesson. He ended the call. The shop felt different. Same walls. Same racks. But quieter. Not empty. Just still. Mitch walked to the front door and flipped the sign to closed for personal reasons. He turned off the lights one by one, letting the dark settle over the shelves and displays. As he passed the framed motto near the door, judge not by appearance but by character, he stopped, adjusted the frame gently until it hung straight. Then he picked up his keys and walked out. For the first time in years, he didn't lock the door with habit. He did it with intent. At Airweight 59, Mitch stood behind the counter, hands still smelling faintly of CLP. He hadn't slept. The barrel sat in a velvet-lined box, placed dead center on the glass, polished to a flawless finish. Every spec she'd listed had been followed. Threaded right, measured twice, tested once in the fitting rig he rarely used. He double-checked everything. The bell above the door chimed softly. Anna entered in the same jeans and navy button-up she'd worn before. Her posture hadn't changed. She walked like someone who moved through the world with precision, not apology. This time, though, Mitch noticed the way other customers turned their heads. They made space. No one smirked. "Lieutenant Commander," Mitch said quietly. He stood straighter. "Mr. Daniels," she replied, stopping a few feet from the counter. "You didn't have to come," he said. "You called," she answered. "Said it was important." Mitch nodded, then gestured to the case. "I spent the night on this. It's to spec, no charge. Not to fix what I did. Just to do right by the request." Anna stepped forward and opened the box. She studied the barrel with a practiced eye, threads clean, finish smooth. The tension gauge marks etched where they needed to be. She gave a single nod. "This is solid work. I know trust isn't built in a day," Mitch said. "And I'm not asking for yours. I just didn't want to let it sit. What happened yesterday? That's not who I thought I was." Anna looked up. Her face didn't soften. But her eyes didn't harden either. "Then it's up to you to make sure it isn't who you become." The bell chimed again. Thompson stepped in, holding a paper coffee cup, eyes uncertain. He paused when he saw her, then nodded with military sharpness. "Lieutenant Commander?" She gave a slight nod back. "Thompson." He cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology. I saw the way you stood, the way you moved. Should have known. Should have said something." Anna studied him for a moment. "You served 24, Marine Corps. Then you do know," she said. Thompson lowered his gaze. "That's why I regret it." Mitch looked between them. No one rushed to fill the silence. Eventually, Anna closed the case and latched it. "This work is excellent," she said, turning to Mitch. "I'll pass it along to our armorer. I won't promise a contract, but I will report your effort." He nodded. "That's all I can ask." As she turned to leave, Thompson stepped aside, standing at parade rest without meaning to. The door chimed as she stepped out. Mitch exhaled and leaned on the counter, tension unwinding one notch. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. Anna set the case on the counter, flipped the latches, and lifted the barrel out with practiced care. She turned it slowly, inspecting the threading first, then the balance. Her eyes didn't miss a detail. She checked the taper, the bore, the mounting clearance. She said nothing for a long moment. Mitch waited without speaking. He didn't need to explain the work. It either stood on its own, or it didn't. "This is good," she said finally. "Measured to mil-spec. 0 tolerance in the threads. No shortcuts." Mitch gave a slow nod. "Did it the way it should have been done yesterday." Anna met his eyes. "This isn't about winning back business. You know that." "I do," he said. "I'd do the same if you never stepped foot in here again." She looked back down at the barrel. "Our armorer reviewed your past work, said your machining was top tier, when not rushed. I'll be recommending a small test order. 2 units, basic maintenance and trigger adjustments, standard calibration." Mitch didn't hide the relief, but he didn't lean on it either. "Understood. This is probationary," she said. "Not symbolic. We'll be reviewing turnaround communication and handling protocols. One misstep, and it ends. Then I won't miss," Mitch said. "I've got something to prove. Not just to you. To myself." Anna nodded, then reached into her pocket and placed a folded sheet on the counter. This includes the specs and serials for the 2 rifles. They're checked in and cleared at our logistics facility. You'll need to coordinate pickup through the armorer. I'll make the call this morning, Mitch said, and I'll keep it by the book. For the first time, her expression shifted just slightly, a trace of something lighter. Not quite a smile, but the edge of respect. We work fast, she said, but we value consistency more. I'm not the same man you met yesterday, Mitch said quietly. That'll show, Anna replied. Or it won't. But this is a start. She closed the case and turned toward the door, leaving the specs behind. The moment didn't feel dramatic. It felt professional, earned, and that made it matter more. As the bell chimed and the door closed behind her, Mitch reached for the paper. He unfolded it carefully, the way someone handles orders that carry more weight than just words. It wasn't a full return, but it was a bridge. And this time, he'd walk it right. Over the course of 3 weeks, Patriot Tactical slowly began to feel different. The walls, once dominated by faded photos of male veterans and old unit patches, now showcased framed images of women in uniform combat photos. Graduation ceremonies, moments of quiet reflection. Anna Carter's image even appeared captured in mid-operation, calm and focused. It was subtle at first, but the shift was undeniable. Johnson, once the loudest skeptic, was now the one setting up targets for the SEAL team's qualification drills. He adjusted the range distance markers carefully, double-checking the settings on the E-type silhouette targets. His jokes no longer carried mockery. Instead, he talked about the importance of precision and discipline, drawing from his own experience but with a new respect shining through. Mitch watched this transformation quietly. The energy in the shop was calmer, more focused, and more inclusive. He found himself listening differently when Anna and her team discussed their specific needs. She no longer had to prove herself. She was part of the ecosystem now valued, respected, and trusted. One afternoon, as Anna coordinated a small training session in the back room, Mitch approached her with an unusual request. He pulled out a flyer from the local high school career center. They want me to speak at their upcoming military career day, he said. I was wondering if you'd consider co-hosting with me. Talk about your experience, the challenges, and opportunities for women in service. Anna studied the flyer, then nodded thoughtfully. That's a good idea. These stories need to be heard. Over the following days, they worked together, preparing presentations and gathering materials. Mitch shared anecdotes from his time in the Marines, emphasizing honor and respect. Anna spoke candidly about the realities of military service for women, the hurdles she'd faced, and the strength required to overcome them. The regular customers noticed too. Conversations at the counter included questions about the new photos and discussions about diversity in the armed forces. Johnson even admitted, during one afternoon break, I didn't get it before. But seeing you all work, the discipline, it changed how I see things. Mitch nodded in agreement. It's not just about guns or gear, it's about respect. For anyone who serves, no matter who they are. By the time career day arrived, Patriot Tactical had become more than a gun shop. It was a place where stories of service, sacrifice, and perseverance were honored in every corner, and where anyone who walked through the door was met with the same level of dignity. The shift was quiet but profound, and Mitch knew it was only the beginning. It was just past 10:30 when the door to Patriot Tactical opened, and a young woman stepped inside. Early 20s, athletic build, hair in a tight bun. She wore jeans and a plain hoodie, hands clasped nervously in front of her. She paused just inside the doorway, eyes scanning the room. There were rifles on display, tactical gear neatly arranged, and framed photos on the wall she didn't yet understand. She looked unsure whether she belonged. Mitch noticed right away. He stepped out from behind the counter, offering a calm smile. Good morning, ma'am. Welcome to Patriot Tactical. What can I help you with today? The young woman hesitated. I'm joining the Air Force next month. Thought I should learn the basics before training. Just wanted to ask a few questions. If that's okay. Her voice carried the same quiet resolve he'd once missed in someone else. This time, he didn't. Of course it's okay, Mitch said, motioning her in. You came to the right place. She stepped closer, relaxing slightly as he continued. Let me introduce you to someone who knows this world better than anyone I've met. Anna Carter looked up from the back counter where she'd been inspecting a freshly serviced M4. She set it down gently and walked over, crisp and steady as always. Wearing a button-up and jeans, her presence had the quiet confidence of someone who'd earned every bit of it. Lieutenant Commander Carter, Mitch said, turning to her. This young lady is heading off to serve. Figured you might want to offer a little guidance. Anna extended her hand. I'd be glad to. What's your name? The young woman shook her hand. Emily. Nice to meet you. Emily, Anna said, her voice calm and warm. How about we go over a few things you'll want to know before basic? What specialty are you aiming for, combat systems officer? Emily replied. Long way to go. I know. Anna's expression held something close to pride. Then it's never too early to start understanding the responsibility that comes with that. Let's start with fundamentals. They moved to the side of the shop where training materials and cleared dummy gear were set up. Anna pulled a cleared M9 from the wall and began with stance, grip, and safety fundamentals. Her tone was instructional, never condescending. Mitch watched from a distance as Emily nodded, asked smart questions, and absorbed every word. Other customers filtered in, some regulars, some new. They gave the lesson space. They knew what it meant now. The air in the shop was different, quietly charged with respect. An hour later, as Anna handed Emily a small packet of resources and notes she'd prepared. Herself, the young woman stood taller than when she entered. Thank you, Emily said. I was nervous walking in here, but this helped more than I can say. You'll do great, Anna replied. Just remember, respect the process, respect yourself, and don't be afraid to keep asking questions. Mitch stepped forward. When you finish basic, stop back in. We'll have something waiting for you. Emily nodded, her eyes bright. I will. She walked out a few minutes later, the bell chiming softly behind her. Anna stood beside Mitch as they watched her go. She reminds me of someone, he said. Anna smiled faintly. Maybe that's the point. Mitch glanced up at the motto above the wall, the same one he'd read 1,000 times before. Judge not by appearance but by character. This time, the words didn't feel like decoration. They felt earned. Anna followed his gaze, then looked back at him. Well, she asked quietly. I think we're on the right path, Mitch said. He reached up and adjusted the frame by 1/4 inch. Legacy doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it walks in quietly and leaves everything different behind it.